like to get paid, that's why I work every day. I'll be making money till I'm in my grave. Don't care what they say, I'll buy time with my money. Laughing to the bank cause it's funny. The money keep coming, I manifest it. Sing these lyrics and you'll get it. I'm the bank, come invest it. I get tracked and I have it. Money finds me attractive. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit. I'll do the work, yeah, I'll do it till it hurts. I'll invest in my future, I'll invest in the purse. I wanna be so rich, life changes, and I don't ever think about how much I just pay it. Yeah, it's the dream, the American dream. Live on top, don't stop till you got everything. But there's balance, cause this life is a challenge. You gotta live in the now while building up the talent. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So keep working till it's hurting, cause that's when you start deserving everything you want, everything you need. Trust the process, yeah, you got this. Keep on working till you bleed. Yeah, I've been there, yeah, I've done that. 10 long years of breaking my back, but now I'm up here, never looking back. I got more dreams that I wanna go attack. Keep on going, keep on moving, never give up. I'll keep going, I can prove just what I'm made of. I got that fire in me, got that desire in me. I'm never tired, I'll be pushing till I'm finally free. I was made to break away from the pack, to challenge, to fight, and to carve my own path. This world wasn't made for the weak, they don't last. Survival of the fittest, so be vicious and attack. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit.
Hello. And if you're wondering, yes, she's right here. Here, hold on. Let's not put my address out into the public, shall we? Let's not do that. There we go. Okay. Hello. You guys want to just do an hour of me petting her and having Nefex play in the background? Hey, look at the camera. People are here to talk to you and listen to you. Okay. We are going to be doing the Diablocritics today as our finisher. We're going to be doing Trent Horn, and we're going to start off with Basecamp. We might go through 2 Basecamp videos just because they say a lot, but they don't say a lot of what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? They say a lot of nothing, but their stuff is always interesting. So we're going to start off there, and then we'll see. By the way, how creepy is the P. Diddy investigators going to people's houses to intimidate them? I think it's intimidation. I think they're going to get fined for intimidation. I know that some people are saying it's investigation. I think it's intimidation. I think it's a mistake. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's start off with some Basecamp. Basecamp. With Simone. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I got home and I took a little nap. I'm going to be honest with you, so I am wide awake right now. Which is probably not good for you all, but it doesn't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. Welcome everybody to a alpha party, because an alpha party don't stop. Ah. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're not gonna do much of each, and then we're gonna move on to Trent of Horn. Let's go.
At Harvard and other. Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available. Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge. This institution will get.
I mean, look, I've been furthering my education through iTunes U, which is now defunct and gone, through not Nebula, but Great Courses and Great Courses Plus, through whatever it was that they had on Amazon for a while that's now gone. They're all college courses. They're college professors. You get to sit like if you're in their class. Some of them do have tests and quiz. Most of them, you're just, listening along. But it's cool. I think more colleges should do that. Allow the courses from the previous year to be available. A, it'll help the students who need to prep. And B, it'll give a resource for the rest of society to get smarter. So I think that's a good thing.
Gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills and make that material available to every American citizen online for free. Whether you want lectures or ancient histories or an introduction to financial accounting or training in a skilled trade, this will be a truly top-tier education option for the people.
Yes, but you need to be able to get a degree from it, get accredited. If it's not accredited, it doesn't work. It's not any good. That's the problem. Because believe me, I've taken all this stuff. It don't help none because I got no proof of nothing.
So progressives come in, they go, we should forgive college debt. And the new right comes in and we're like, hey, let's build a college system that doesn't create college debt in the first place. I also think it's really interesting that the Democrats want to portray themselves as a party of the people and of the working classes, and yet their entire ideology is based on this elitist, class-based ideology that's indoctrinated within the university system and enforced on society.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone! Today is a very exciting episode for us because some crazy stuff has been happening. And when I say crazy, like, obviously people know we supported Trump to win this election without many reservations. However, the first few announcements and programs...
The intellectual incest twins are are supporters of Trump. Who would have known? Although 20 years ago, these guys would have been super hardcore Democrats. Did you guys check out that photo where they're like the Democrats won, and it's the photo of everyone who won, and they're all like high-standing, high-profile Democrats from 20 years ago, but now they're all Republicans. Like the Overton window shifted so far to one side that the people who used to be the most outlandish Democrats are now the centrist Republicans. That's how far the Overton window has shifted.
He has named since coming into office have blown me away. Like they will be transformational to human civilization.
It bothers me that he's not president yet, and yet he's doing almost daily briefings and releasing daily videos, making announcements on things, because he's not in charge yet. Like Biden's still fucking things up with the warfare situation. Like I don't want a nuclear war. Like seriously, like that's not. I don't get. Like I know that I really hate Biden, but I know that other people don't feel that way. I don't like Trump. I'm going to be very clear, but I hate Biden a lot more than I don't like Trump. But you guys cannot be okay with nuclear war. I mean, come on. You guys can't be okay with that. Even if you're not on my side on the whole Trump is the better option of the two, you have to at least oppose nuclear war. That destroys everybody. No one lives. No one survives if that happens.
In a way that I almost cannot overstate and could lead to human civilization going down a completely new pathway. And a much, much more positive pathway. Basically, I think a lot of people were like, oh, what's all the things that this new Trump administration is going to do? What is it going to be like? How is it going to be characterized? Is it going to be characterized by the sort of reductivist Project 2025 ideas of like employ social controls on people, let's ban porn, let's et cetera? Or is it going to be the type of stuff that would have come out of somebody like Elon or the type of stuff that we're advocating for? Like reforming major government institutions and trying to fix major systemic problems using very bold, aggressive solutions. And now we're seeing it is very much more on this side of things. So much so that the first thing that we're going to read about for people who know us, they know of our Collins Institute. Our attempt to reform the education system is just two random individuals. Well, Trump is putting his finger on the scale as well. is this? And the way that he is doing this is so reminiscent of the system that we put together. I believe that it may be based on it. Well, I know that people close to Trump right now, people who have been at Mar-a-Lago talking with Trump a lot about who is being appointed, had seen
Hey, everybody in the chat, do you guys have an image of the of Basecamp, or is Basecamp gone? Because over here it's gone. Let me see what's going on. Yeah, no, Basecamp is gone. What happened? I just had that cycle thing that happened the last time happen again, and now the image is out of here. Let's see if I can get it back. What the hell, man? This is such crap. This keeps happening. Okay. Okay, we're back? Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if it's Elgato. I don't know if it's Streamlabs, but this is really, really pissing me off. This keeps happening. It can't be Streamlabs because it happened also in StreamYard. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, let's continue on.
at least the commercial vid for the Collins Institute and had the Institute described to them over at least like a hour conversation. So I am quite certain that people in his orbit knew about it. So it's not wild. I'm not like a crazy conspiracy theorist for thinking that some of the Institute ideas...
Oh, on my alt channel, I put up a new review of Arcane, Superman and Lois, Dune Prophecy, which isn't good, and something else. There was a fourth one. Anyway, go watch it. It's good. It was a good episode, and the reviews are quick. It's 15 minutes in and out, and you get like 5 shows.
Were worked into this plan. So I'm going to play some video.
In recent weeks, Americans have been horrified to see students and faculty can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically
functioning again.
Yeah, but no, this is, I mean, I couldn't agree more, and I'm extremely excited about this concept. And it bothers me the extent to which this very, very broken system has been funded, and funded in a way that doesn't.
I do want to cover some of the Hassan stuff. I don't think I'm going to do it today. I might do it in tomorrow's show.
Benefit anyone, even if you wanted this agenda to be pursued. For example, even if I had created a cult system in the university that I wanted everyone to be indoctrinated within, I wouldn't also want them to then become disillusioned by that very system, by the amount of student debt they would be put in. So, like, and there's nothing about this, regardless of your affiliation or agenda, that I feel works. So no matter what, I want to see it wiped out.
Well, and I also think that we're seeing a few things here, right? In recent videos, I have talked about the fact that a lot of white supremacists ended up leaving the Trump coalition because they didn't like his support for Israel. The very first thing when he's talking about reforming the education system is his concern about the anti-Semitic stuff that we are seeing on college campuses.
Yeah, the fact that people didn't know that he was a Zionist is really weird. I don't mean that in a negative way. He's an actual Zionist. The fact that people didn't know that about Trump is, to me, bizarre. He switched from the Democrat to the Republican Party for several reasons. This is one of the reasons. So I don't know why people didn't know that.
Forgive their loans, that may give them food assistance, that may give them all these other things.
Oh, no, I think you're absolutely right. Colleges support Democrats in so many ways. Not only do they create this indentured servant class.
I'm really only interested in this part here. So we're going to do this real quick, and then we'll go to the next one.
But the opposition to this coalition is primarily college-educated people. That's the one voter block that Dems still have on lock. And a lot of Dems will be like, oh, it's because we have smarter people. But no.
Give me a second. I'm going to go get some floss. We're going to let them play. We'll let them talk.
And now benefit from this class system that our society is based, where there's a group of our society that doesn't consider some people like truly adult until they've gone through college.
Yeah,
it's like a coming of age ritual. But okay.
Well, and I want to make it clear that the university system doesn't have to necessarily dissuade people from starting families early. For example, you could create a new type of higher education or credentialing system that actively supports young families. And I think really the best time to have a family is when you're going through education, because when you're in the middle of learning and absorbing information and you have a flexible schedule and flexible classes, that is the best time to be pregnant or hanging out with a newborn, right? Because what else are you going to do but stay up all night, like nurse, take care of a baby, and like learn particle physics?
I miss anything good?
And yet that is a huge missed opportunity. So I'm not saying that higher education is the problem. I'm saying the current corrupt, terrible, toxic university system is the problem. And that's what's being identified here. It's so cool.
Yeah, and I also think it's really interesting that the Democrats want to portray themselves as a party of the people and of the working classes, and yet their entire ideology is based on this elitist, class-based ideology that's indoctrinated within the university system and enforced on society. There could be nothing.
And I see this with Dan McKellen. So I sometimes hear it in some of the stuff that Kip says, but if you listen carefully, you don't hear it from Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman's really good about avoiding that kind of talking points. Even if he might hold that feeling in his heart, you never know. You'd never know it. He's very good at not speaking in that manner, speaking down to his audience. I do think that's a problem with Dan. And I've seen it happen with Kip. But it is what it is. My wife is very learned, and she does not look down on me for not having a doctorate or a master's. And the fact that I hold an associate's doesn't bother her at all, except for the fact that she wants me to have a higher degree so I can go teach at a college near her. But that's a different thing. So, yeah, I do think that a lot of the schooling that I did I'm going to say postgraduate, even though I only graduated from one of the two schools I attended. But post-graduation, post-leaving college, post-dropping out of my college track, I do wish that all those courses I took, I took hours and hours of courses. I took a lot. I watched all of the Jordan Peterson courses. I watched all of the Bart Ehrman courses. I watched all of, I don't know, there was someone from Rice, someone from, what was it, New Mexico University or something like that. There's a bunch of universities that I listen to, and that I listen to their college courses on biblical criticism, on ancient societies, ancient Greece, philosophy, this kind of stuff, specializing in Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, all this kind of stuff that I really, really spent years and years and years listening to different professors go through their different courses year after year. Jewish studies, stuff like that. There's no credit for it. There's no proof that I did it outside of looking at my download history on either my iPad or iPod or whatever. So yeah, no, it would be great if there was a way to get credentials for this. I know that this is something Jordan Peterson is looking into, getting credentials for his online university. That would be great.
Less, I guess, for the working class than that. But let's read the next two paragraphs here.
Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge, and do it without adding a single dime to the federal debt.
The one that the idea, I don't know if they're going to get to it here, but the idea that he mentions that I like the best is that any foreign national student that comes to the United States and goes through 4 years of college and graduates gets a green card. That's amazing. And I'm being very selfish here. I have a stepson who I love very dearly, who I want him to have a green card. I want him to be an American citizen. So this would be amazing if Trump did this. So yeah, no, I like it.
This institution will gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills, and make that material available to every American citizen online for free. Whether you want lectures or ancient histories or an introduction to financial accounting or training in a skilled trade, the goal will be to deliver it and get it done properly using study groups, mentors, industry partnerships, and the latest breakthrough in computing. This will be a truly top-tier education option for the people.
Why does every time he talks, it looks like AI?
It's uncanny how much this sounds like the Collins Institute. I love that, though. Because obviously this is what we think would be ideal. This is what we built because we thought, what then in an ideal scenario, thinking from first principles, would people benefit from now, given the internet, given what's out there, given our economy, given the rise of AI? And this is what they're planning on building. Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Yes, please. Exactly. Yes, please. And we will be reaching out to anyone involved in this about having the framework we built with the Institute used as a framework for.
I don't understand why these two people haven't reached out to Jordan Peterson, or how come Jordan Peterson isn't aware of them and isn't communicating with them. Because them and Jordan seem to be on the same page. Prager and PragerU seems to be on the same page, and this new program from Donald Trump seems to be on the same page. So I would like to see them get together and make one giant program and get accredited that way. Even if I think they're wackadoos, I still think they're likable wackadoos.
For this, for anyone who hasn't checked out the Institute recently since launch, it's developed dramatically since then. We now have like an AI search function. We have everything's got pictures now. We're going to have multiple layouts soon. We're going to have a lot more tests that are written tests that are judged by AI. So I am really impressed by what we're building. But if we had access to flesh it out with this, you could get something that is just truly, truly, truly world-class.
The Collins Institute, a comprehensive skill tree comprising all of human knowledge, ranging from tort law to hanging drywall to the industrial transportation of grain or aquaculture pharmacology. Click on a node to open it. The node will include a description of what knowledge is needed to pass its test, as well as a list of the best places to learn that information. Vote on the sources that were most useful to you by clicking this button. To add an additional source, click this button.
And the other thing that I really, really appreciate about this is the U.S. government, like why, it's almost sort of weird that this wasn't happening before. The U.S. government was funding individual state colleges to the tunes of billions and trillions of dollars a year, instead of just funding for top quality free lectures to be online. Like,
well, but that's because when all of this was originally designed and all of the bureaucratic organizations were set into motion, the internet didn't exist. This wasn't a possibility. And I think that's the thing is we need to, just like we talk about school, like primary school being a combination of giving kids a safe place to be during the day while their parents work. That's one element of it. Another element of it is just making sure kids don't kill themselves. So sort of giving them supervision. Another element is food service. And then this tiny little element to the side is maybe educating them. I don't know, maybe. But there's all these different things. Now we need to look at from first principles school and say, okay, how do we provide these services a la carte or together in some way that makes more sense, that's more efficient? Because, school as a monolith to deliver all these things is not optimal. The same goes for university. I think that there are a couple things that are funded through universities, which if let's say all universities are shut down, needs to be rethought. And one of those is important research. Universities have these labs, they have these academics whose lifestyle, like their salary needs to be paid if they're going to spend all their time curing cancer or doing other really important work, right? Like that makes sense to me, but that doesn't have to be through the same institution that educates people to have a career, right? And it doesn't seem like those kind of run counter to each other, because people who go through academia right now are kind of falling off the career track and they're like more driven into an academic track. So it seems like the institutions and technology and systems that should be preparing people for a career should be different from the institutions that we use as like the R&D of America. I think that what we're looking at here is the thing that prepares Americans to have a career, and we really just need that.
Yeah, well, and here's what I find really interesting with this is I think that this is super indicative of what the new right is. So I have made some statements about the new right that I think are really...
I don't know where they're going to go with the new right, but I also feel there is a shift in what being right wing is. A lot of the current right wingers, the two letters I have the most trouble with, are the old progressives. So these are progressives from 20 years ago. This is not the current progressive move. This is not the ultra left. This is not the current left. This is what the old left used to be, and it's now on the right. So I think this is interesting.
Borne out by this being one of his first major projects, which is the first being is that the new right, when contrasted with the left today, the core difference between the two is not on particular policies or on particular worldviews. It's actually that the left thinks you can make iterative changes to the existing systems, and the new right wants to make seismic changes to the systems. It just doesn't think they work anymore, and they need to be totally rebuilt. Yeah. And I had also pointed out that the reason why the new right made such a good coalition with Trump's original base is Trump's original base was, let's burn everything down. Like the education system isn't working, but there wasn't concrete plans on how to rebuild it. It was just sort of like, well, things will work, or we can do this at home, or we can, whereas the new right was, well, and I have a plan to use modern technology to rebuild it from the ground up systemically better. And I think that that's what we're seeing here is this combination of burn down Department of Education, build up new school system.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's accurate.
It will be strictly non-political, and there will be no wokeness or jihadism allowed. None of that's going to be allowed. Most importantly, the American Academy will compete directly with the existing and very costly four-year university system by granting students degree credentials that the U.S. government and all federal contractors will henceforth recognize. The Academy will award the full and complete equivalent of a bachelor's
get
degree.
down.
This point he's making here is really important for a number of reasons. And the first is the keeping it non-political, keeping out the wokeness, keeping out the jihadism, which really is on our university campuses. If people are like, what is he talking about jihadism on our university campuses? When you see students chanting from the river to the sea on a university campus, that is jihadism. They're saying, I want to remove all of the Jewish people from...
And that kind of leads into what's going on with Hassan. Hassan's been able to speak his nonsense for way too long. Without any pushback. And he's created this kind of Uber class, this Ubermensch YouTubers. Everything from Asmongold, who was part of that system and now is not because he kind of woke himself out of it. he went too far to the right, and fell right off the popularity cliff into money. So I'm pretty sure he's happy about that, actually. But you have, going all the way back to Lacey Green, who has fallen off. Good for her, because she probably has a better life now. But she got a little bit unwoked by dating a shit poster. And this has just kept on happening. This happened to my homeboy Apostate Prophet, extremely far left. Now he's on conservative fundamentalist evangelical YouTube channels. This happened this is happening currently to Anna Kasparian, where it's Stitch and Adam who are welcoming her in, not the old progressives. And it's not that these people have changed their opinion. It's just the Overton window just keeps going miles and miles and miles to the left. It's insane. And so you have Hassan, who has, Nick and I'm guessing Emiru, and Fan and all these people, and Arthur and all that, and these orbiters. Minx is one of these orbiters. Schlatt is one of these orbiters. I'm pretty sure Finster wishes he was one of these orbiters. And you have this thing going on, and it happened with Destiny, where Destiny went too far and he lost his platform. He's not broke, but like Alex Jones, he had to find an alternative means. This is Hassan's moment. This is he's gone too far, and it's just a collection of everything that he said, and it's one straw too many, and it breaks the camel's back. I think this is happening. I think it is real. I think the new right is the old left, and I mean this for real. Like I said, I'm not talking about how they're defining it. I really do think that the new right is the old left, and to make this very plain, I am a Catholic in a purely Democratic area that has voted Democratic since I've been alive. There's 5 counties here that have over 1 million Mexicans, 1 million Mexicanos, and we voted red. We voted for Trump. So this is not isolated. This is not something. This is not something that's being fictitiously brought up by the right to try and make the left look bad. The left is moving so far left that they're losing supporters, but the supporters haven't changed their opinion. Their opinions are still the same that they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 16 years ago. But the party that they're supposed to be a part of is no longer their party. And so they've kind of infiltrated and changed what the right is. The ultra-conservative right still exists. There's still Trent Horns. We're going to cover the Trent Horn in a minute. There's still Trent Horn. There's still all these conservatives. But all the far leftists that are in the Democratic Party are becoming Republicans. So this is not crazy talk. These two people are extremely correct here.
The end of Israel with violence.
Yeah.
That is just like there's nothing else to it. That is what's happening. People can be like, "Oh, come on, that's not really coming from jihadists." And I'm like, "You should watch our video on who the number 1 state donor is to the U.S. education system. It is the Qatari government, which is also the number 1 financial donor to Hamas. They would have splinter factions on our university campuses."
Good evening. As the conflict in the Middle East continues to rage, the motivations for each of the factions remain complex. Tonight, we're sitting down with the brave Hamas.
if they do not build strong governance systems, which we wrote a book about governance on how to do this, to prevent this department from being captured the moment the Democrats come back into office.
Yeah.
This is going to be the tool for some of the greatest evil ever done. So this needs to be like the Fed. It needs to be a separated branch of government, and it needs to have very, very strong systems in it that are very, very bipartisan and very, very easy to throw things out and keep the rot from spreading within this. And I hope that we can work to do that, or that the people working to do that are competent and they don't just think they can create a department that won't be taken over the moment they leave and filled with wokeness. Just because Trump says he's against wokeness doesn't mean the next person's going to feel that way.
Yeah.
But there are ways that we can build systems that prevent it from being corrupted.
I do think that's something that is half-baked, not to criticize this because I think it's great, but we're also not shills. So something that is half-baked is this idea that, I appreciate that it basically...
No, I'm 100% not a shill or a grifter. Look at my subscriber count. Because I won't sell out, I'm relegated to this. But that's okay, because I love you all.
It's saying that the
I love
American
you,
Academy
Thomas.
will have credentials of equal value as far as the government should be concerned with hiring as any other accredited university. I think that's great. However, when people are looking at credentials, the reason they like Harvard isn't because they think Harvard classes are necessarily better. It's because they know how exclusive Harvard is. So if someone was good enough to get into Harvard, just get in. And that's why Harvard dropouts have plenty of benefits too on the career market. Means that they must have something of value. It means that they are articulate, that they are ambitious, that they are hardworking, and that you can expect certain things from them. And I do think that when I come back to that whole my thing about parsing out the unique things of value that a system is creating, we need to be aware of what credentialing is and isn't. And you cannot, from just some open, free online system that anyone can go through, assume that those credentials will immediately be of equal value to employers.
And that's the problem. All right, let's move on to the next video. Okay, here we go.
Shatter the left. Upon my inauguration as president, I will get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination, dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech.
I'm used to getting really excited about a candidate, and then they win, and then they proceed to immediately disappoint me. Like, wait, how did you even know? I didn't even put this on my wish list, and yet this is amazing. Yeah.
Europeans who are like, I don't see how America is that different from Europe. I don't see how you're more free than we are. Do you get it now? Do you get that Trump was allowed to win in this country?
Now, let's go start a fucking revolution.
The entire world would be better off if these people were permanently removed from these platforms. Like, there is no downside and only upside to see people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Tim Pool never be allowed to publicly broadcast their opinions ever again.
Tread on them! Tread the fuck all over them!
I don't give a fuck about anybody that winds up at any of these rallies and gets shot or whatever the fuck, okay?
We gotta fight for your right!
Is free speech under threat in the UK with the rise of so-called non-crime hate incidents, arrests over grossly offensive memes? And
I'll be honest with you, what's going on in Europe is horrifying. When I watch videos of people being arrested for silent prayer, for silent protest, for non-violent silent protest, for having opinions in their own house, that's fucked up, dude. Like, I'm sorry, like that, and I realize that there goes my monetization, but that's really messed up. That's really bad.
And the government's online safety bill threatening to clamp down on social media posts. Can you really speak your mind in 21st century Britain?
If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities...
Hey, how about shadow banning? Stand up together with my fellow shadow banned people.
University should lose federal research dollars.
We people of shadow shall come into the light, and you shall see how hideous we are in our basements and spare rooms and corner libraries.
And federal...
We haven't seen sun in years. I'm a dark-skinned Hispanic man, and look at how pale I am. There is no sunlight here.
Student loan support for a period of 5 years.
Ding dong! It's America, motherfucker!
Furthermore, when users have their content or account...
B.S. Lewis. The sunlight. I have been freed. I can spread my hate. Yes. Thank you, Donald Trump. Yeah, you don't know it, but B.S. Lewis secretly voted for Trump just to let him out of his cage, so that way he can scare the bejesus out of people on Twitter and YouTube and Kick. I'm talking. Come back up. You can come back up, but you can't bite. Come on. Thank you. You're welcome.
Accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use. They should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal.
I mean, I might have to make out with Donald Trump now.
In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone! I am excited to be here with you today as another in a series of episodes we're going to be doing on the first major projects of the Trump administration. And this one is relevant to your and my daily life, our potential income, our careers. It's not just important, it's existential. And it could change the way the internet works forever, and in a way that is so astronomically positive. Again, it feels like we just got kicked on to a whole new timeline.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody, oh yeah. You're gonna, because you haven't gone into this yet, and you don't know about this plan yet. This is game changing. So let's play a little bit of this here, and we can talk about it as we're watching it, okay?
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people.
What came out? Like he's referring to some kind of bombshell
Give me a second.
Twitter files of...
We know from Mark Zuckerberg.
Right.
The FBI asked him to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story, despite knowing that it was true, in order to help the Democrats win an election cycle. That is insane. That is obscene. That should not be allowed to happen. With our own videos, I
drink too much
talk
Monster
about certain topics, and there are things I just can't mention, and I don't mention it, and it makes me feel like I'm a very dishonest person. But I'm like, if I do, then people aren't going to see our video.
Honestly, that's one of the biggest problems, is that I can't say certain things. I can't even watch certain things on watch-along videos without my video immediately getting tanked. I'm trying to grow this channel, but the topics I'm interested in and the topics I want to talk about, I can't talk about openly or honestly. I can be as honest as I can be, but the moment I say the wrong thing, I've had videos, this is not a joke, I've had videos where I've had 100, 200 and some odd viewers, 50 viewers, and suddenly I'm down to two views the moment I say the wrong thing. I've had videos where it's just going up and up and then. So no, it is painful and it is real. The algorithm really is listening in. It really is watching. So I understand monetization is important. I understand advertisement is important. I get it. I'm watching what's going on with the shit show and the garbage can fire of Twitch. I see it. I'm a member. I'm a member of Twitch. You know, I don't have anything. I don't have any viewers, but I'm on that platform too. So I'm watching what's going on over there. So I get it. But hot dog it. It'll be good to be able to speak openly yet again.
Videos. And even mentioning that this is the case, well, it won't be the case for long if this goes through, but just this being the case is really, really sad that I cannot mention basic facts, like how many people voted in each election cycle. That is something that has gotten videos demonetized in the past, and we'll test to see if it demonetizes this one. And this is not like... Not
only demonetized, but demoted and shadow banned, and just all these things have to stop. I really loved the YouTube and the Twitter of about 7 years ago, where videos naturally became popular. Now, here's what that meant. That meant that ABC, NBC, CNN, all their videos were low on the recommendation list. So when you went to look up a story, whoever was the top viewed person, that would be the most recommended. So it would be things like Phil DeFranco. There's a few other ones who were just shooting. They didn't have studios at the time. They were just shooting videos from their bedroom. Cheon had a few other ones, Chris something, but it was fun. Some black guy. These were great channels, but they were only popular because the algorithm allowed the most popular point of view to win out. Now that they artificially suppress the most popular point of views and the most interesting point of views to where non-popular views get promoted up, yeah, those channels get more views now, but it's not an honest representation of what people are interested in or what people are thinking. And the result, I get that some of this was done to suppress support for Trump. The result is that Trump now won overwhelmingly because you don't have real information, so you can't counter Trump. You can't counter a populist, a true populist now, because you're not able to hear the populist message. So you're stuck in your own bubble, thinking that you're winning, but your winning side is not popular. That is the unintended consequence of the suppression of information, and it needs to stop because I don't want 3 more Trumps in the White House. I really don't. We gotta allow real information to flow.
A conspiracy theorist. This is just numbers of voters in each election cycle. I cannot, and this was true during like the Wuhan thing, right? When they would like demonetize you for saying it with lab leak theory, and now we know the names of the first 3 people who got them, and they were all gain of function researchers at the Wuhan virus labs. I'm sorry, not virus labs, COVID virus labs. The COVID gain of function virus labs. The labs that were studying how do we make a COVID virus that can spread faster in humans. Like it's wild to me the lies that people have and the tech companies have spread, and I like that they are labeling this as an exit, because so many people were like, this was like when what's his face came out was like the things that the NSF was spying on average Americans.
Edward Snowden.
And everyone's like, oh wow, that's terrible. So anyway, whatever.
Yeah, that was a big nothing burger in the end.
Yeah, it turns out aliens are real and they're under the water, and nobody cares.
Well, no, and that's the way the Democrats acted when it came out that the FBI had suppressed true information to help Dems win an election.
Well, actually, you know what? So each of these developments, I think, in one sense, life
He's
goes
drinking
on,
a beer. He's trying to be a man. I wonder if he can do even. I mean, he's clearly skinny enough to do push-ups and pull-ups, but I wonder if he can bench press. Any bench pressing and deadlifting in your life, my friend?
In the other sense, people also understand that they're being censored, and I see this more and more. Watching YouTube in the background basically all day.
I'm short. You're probably tall. You're white, so you're probably tall. So let's say you're 6 foot. I'm 5'7". I'll gladly challenge you to a boxing match.
In the self-censorship.
Or a kickboxing match. Kickboxing would be really good.
The strange language that people are using. In fact, now it's even spreading into like the common lexicon. Like people use it offline even when they're not on YouTube.
Like unaliving or graping.
Yeah. Like there was one fantasy event that people were trying to put on. It was like kind of a LARP event that they were sending out invites to, and they're like, you might even like unalive one of your enemies, and it's like, no, you can. This is an invite, like, but yeah, it's getting to that point. So I do think that people have internalized it.
Yeah, the censorship has created not an artificial, but a legitimate change in the language. We are speaking in ways that are monetizable, even in our own personal private lives. This is not good. It's not good.
And it has led to a lot of
it's a bad
behavior.
evolution.
So it both has been and hasn't been a big deal.
No, it's been a huge deal. The problem is you are aware of the words that people have found to get around the system. You are not aware of the entire categories of topics that regularly get our videos hidden from people.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So you're here being like, oh, here's where we notice it. It's where you don't notice it that it's an existential issue to our democracy. And what I was pointing out, that was the Snowden thing. It was like, oh, so crazy. Okay, anyway. And the Dems tried to do that again with this revelation.
When I do a video or even a stream where I don't do anything offensive, I'll have 1,000 views by tomorrow morning. Within 24 hours, I'll have 1,000 views. The moment I say anything remotely controversial, I'll have a video with 25 views the next day. I can do it on a hot topic and I only have 25 views. But I can make the most boring video in the world if I do nothing that the algorithm finds offensive or deems unmonetizable. I can have 1,000 views by tomorrow. It's not fair. Like for someone like me who wants to speak openly and honestly and doesn't want to bend the knee, it's really not fair. It's really hard for me to do what I want to do. I'd love to be a Danny or a Leo and have a much larger audience, but I don't. How is unalive any different or offensive than kill? It's not. It's just algorithm speak. It's just a way to get around the algorithm. And then the algorithm learns what those words are. So using those words doesn't really get you around it because the algorithm's always adapting anyway.
And I think that most Americans expected this because even the legacy GOP would have swept this under the table. They're like, you know, when we were at the NatCon, a lot of people there were like, screw the base. I was like, that's not what the base wants. They go, we just need a deep state that's controlled by Republicans. And I was like, no, we need to burn the
Like when you censor stuff that's supposed to be racist, well, people are still having the thought. So the thought's still there. They're just not saying it out loud. So you've just made a non-racial thing also racial because people still get the point. You can censor out the whole word that someone's saying, and people still know what you're talking about. So it's not. This is very, very. It's ineffective, and it's a twisting of the truth versus a correction of the hate and bias that's out there. What you want to do is correct the hate and bias and fear. You want it to be a corrective. You don't want it to be. I don't know, a multiplier.
We need to burn the deep state. We need to burn the deep state. And they're like, how could you say that? Like, that's where we're all employed, like gesturing at everyone in the room. And I'm like, well, maybe that's part of the problem. And so I think that, again, a lot of conservatives today, they get angry. And this is what we saw from like after in the 90s. This isn't what leftists would have gone after the 2000s. This would have been seen as radical and insane what's about to be proposed. But it is what the new right cares about. And so the question is, do you care about this stuff more than you care about banning gay marriage? You know?
No, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, P.S. Is that it's making innocuous, simple, innocent statements be the worst statements in the world. It's so stupid what the algorithm is doing to the people to all of society. I mean, I've heard people from Italy talk like us now, and people from Japan talk like us now. Like this is so stupid what the algorithm is doing. It's making words that are innocent into the most horrible, horrifying sentences.
Do you care about
people aren't going to stop talking like how they talk? Yeah. Oh, but everyone will act offended at the real word, but the non-offensive version of it, which means the exact same thing, you didn't fix anything. You still have a bunch of racist people saying racist shit. It's just now they're saying it in cutesy ways, but they get in trouble if they say it in the real way, even if they're not racist. It's so stupid. It's thought policing. And it doesn't work.
About keeping our borders safe more than you care about hating on Hispanic people. There is a portion of the legacy GOP that's like, yeah, these are just bigger battles. And then there's a portion that genuinely did care about their homophobia and racism more than actually fixing anything. And we're like, oh, we're happy to see you go.
I'm earnestly telling you that it may not be in your best interest to vote this election cycle. To vote for a candidate is to assent to their platform, to signal to those running their campaign that you approve of the messaging that they have put out.
Our message to gay Americans tonight is this. You're free to marry who you want, if you want, without the government standing in your way.
And I think that, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if me and Trump won just the normal gay guy vote.
And this is what I'm talking about. This is not conservative speak. The new right is the old centrist left. The new right is the old centrist left.
Because, again, they just wanted to be left the hell alone.
But what should you do if, like so many other conservatives, you see the Republican Party shifting ever further away from real conservative values?
It reminds me of the atheist movement, when the atheist movement shattered, and there was one faction that was like, oh, actually all the statistics say religion is super important, and as society has descended into secularism, everything has fallen apart. And then there's another group that we found out just like dunking on conservatives, and that's where like Bill Nye went, and like Black Science guy went, whatever his name is, Tyson, whatever. Anyway, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Well, he was riding his bike when there was a lightning strike, and now he reads real fast. He's good at science and math. Black Pepper.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Where exactly did he get the bike?
He stole it.
Right, that's what I thought.
And what we learned is that they never actually cared about what was true. They weren't partnered with us because they wanted to make things better for people. They were partnered with us because they liked dunking on a specific subpopulation. For them, it was conservatives. And I think what many conservatives are realizing now is there was a faction, small faction of the party that turns out wasn't relevant to winning elections, that really just like dunking on gay people and racial minorities, and they're gone now. So hooray! Watch our video.
You know, and I do think that is a problem. You know, Elon is trying to deny the rise of homophobia on his platform. But I mean, you have people like Melanie Mack and people like Fuentes who are able to say horrendous things now where they weren't before. So understand that it is a two-sided sword. If I'm allowed to say more things that are positive, that people are going to be lifted up by, and you know, people on the far left are going to come down off of their high horse and be a little less tense, and people on the right are going to come to me and they're going to be a little bit more open-minded. That also means the people on the far left and the far right are also able to say their nonsense. So it is not as if someone like me is the only one who gets to speak. All sides get to speak in a world of free speech, and it becomes who is actually most popular, not based on artificial suppression. So, or artificial emotion or promotion. Thomas says the new right may be similar to the old JFK Democrats. I think so, because there was a faction of the Democratic Party that was anti-racist, and for those that don't know, the Democrats used to be the bad guys. They were the pro-racist, pro-segregation, pro-censorship group. They're still pro-censorship now, by the way. And then they switched. I think that's what's happening to the right, is that the Christian voices, the moral, the silent majority voices are being pushed out. And you have the louder centrist, the Democratic centrist and Republican leftists, because there was a Republican left. So you have the Republican left and you have the Democratic right becoming the new conservative party, the new Republican Party. And I think that is very scary for the Christians. I think that's why they are responding so vitriolically to things like the transgender movement in the right and the acceptance of that culture in the right. And I think that's why you have people on the left so confused, because they're like, I thought that was something that the right didn't agree with. Why are they taking our people? It's like, because you pushed your people out and they don't have anywhere else to go. And Republicans and Christians are like, yeah, you want to join us? Go ahead. We don't care. And so, yeah, the face of the Republican Party is changing drastically. This was happening 4 years ago with McCain's daughter. So don't think this is new. You just weren't paying attention.
Where we go over like every major influencer and all of them were like, none of my followers vote. And people were like, oh, it was just staging. It wasn't just staging. Leather Apron Club released this video right before the election happened. Okay?
We're going to have a world where Blair White is going to be the Secretary of State or the First Lady in the White House. And you're going to have, I don't know, Alex Jones be the press secretary. You're going to have, this is the word we're coming, and this is going to be the Republicans. The Republicans are going to have the first woman president. The Republicans are going to have the first trans. I don't know if they're called first lady, first gentleman, whatever that's going to be. It's going to be a Republican. It's not going to be the Democrats, and I think that's the crazy part about all this. That's the crazy world. The crazy world is not that these things are coming, is that it's going to come under the guise of Republican conservatism. That you're going to have the first gay president be a Republican. You're going to have the first trans first lady or first gentleman be a Republican. You're like, this is what's happening. Like, I don't understand why the far left doesn't understand how separated they are from reality. That they don't get that they're pushing in the very people that they're pushing away into power. You're pushing them into power, and you're pushing them into the power on the Republican side. It's bizarre that they don't understand. As a party, they don't understand.
not with enough time for Democrats to feel threatened by it. And due to the YouTube algorithm, it was mostly seen by his base, who he would have known are Republican legacy voters. And I think that through that, he created a mandate, and the other people who, went this direction created a mandate for the party to not listen to their types of voices. And this, if you don't attack gays, we're not going to support you anymore. Those people didn't vote, so they're not relevant anymore. But let's continue with all of this craziness. So I'm going to play some more video here.
They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens.
Come on, you got to admit that's metal. Like, regardless of how you feel about his immigration policy, which a lot of people are going to hate, and it's going to turn a lot of people against the Republicans again, this part right here is freaking metal. This is awesome sauce. This is good.
I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security,
This is an honest
the
smile.
Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are.
I guess it's sad.
It's edging to an orgasm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just great stuff. This is great stuff. It's just like edging to a verbal orgasm. This is perfect.
To be done. Like, how did we get here where we have to be like, we're gonna have to fire the people who, we shouldn't be.
We're manipulating elections. Yeah.
like, how did that happen in the first place?
But no, I think that this is really important, and I'm glad that there's going to be consequences for this. When I think we don't just need to fire them, we need to fire them and say why they're being fired.
Well, I want to be public about firing, and I want to be really public about what has happened and what we're doing about it. I think I've heard some people commenting on their hope for the Twitter files, but for various government departments, like what actually happened with COVID, what's actually going on with all these different things. Like just release the information. I mean, one, the government should be transparent and public about these things anyway. Unless it's top secret stuff that's going to get spies killed, then it should be 100% transparent and available for people. We have the technology, we have the ability, and honestly, the accountability would make everything work more smoothly. So
Okay, we're going to Trent Horn. At the top of the hour, we're going to the Trent Horn. I don't know if it's this one. Is it this one? Is it this one that's going to have it? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so Trent Horn, the Grinch that stole apologetics, grows a heart, a tiny itty bitty heart, but he grows a heart. So this one is a terrible video. This one is not.
Many people define being based as having the courage to speak unpopular truths. In a previous episode, I showed Pope Francis being based when he said women can't be priests or deacons.
For a little girl growing up Catholic today, will she ever have the opportunity to be a deacon and participate as a clergy member in the church?
No.
But just because hard truths are often unpopular, that doesn't mean everything that's unpopular is a hard truth. Sometimes it's unpopular because everybody knows that it's wrong. In today's episode, I want to talk about how some people relish the backlash that comes from being based, and they love it so much they're unable to see that they aren't being holy, they're being heartless. And this kind of...
I would address that directly to Melanie Mack, by the way, and those of her kin, like, not Barron. Barron's actually pretty cool, but the Quartering. Even though the Quartering's problem is more that he's a grifter. But yeah, the Tyler Marshalls of the world, like this is their problem. And what's surprising, this is also Trent Horn's problem. So I don't think he looked in the mirror and suddenly had a revelation about himself. I think he thinks he's the exception to this problem, but he is part of this problem.
Heartless mentality can send you to hell.
I would love to send him his own video over and over and over again until he gets the message. Don't do that. But I would love to do that because like he could be talking to himself.
Are people, including self-described Christians, who harbor a deep resentment towards women that leave pornography to become Christian. Here's an example. Drissle's dad used to create...
Well, what about people who leave the LGBTQ activist movement to become Christian? Trent.
pornography, and I even blocked her account because of it. But one of her friends asked me to unblock her because she repented and she now fully embraces the Catholic faith. I asked Bree to send me some screenshots of how people treated her after her conversion, and it's tragic to see the bitter anger in these people's hearts.
I've been saying this a lot for the last 2 years, and I have literally had this conversation and these arguments with Trent on YouTube and on X, Twitter, and I don't think he realizes that he's part of this problem. I really don't. But I think it's amazing how well he calls it out in this video.
They write, "Former porn actress, you are a disgrace and not welcome in my church. No matter how hard she prays, it won't help her. God bans porn stars from heaven. God won't take you in, so hell will be waiting for you." I've seen lots of similar comments online.
And that's not true. Whether you're a murderer, whether you're a sex worker, whatever the worst crime in the world is, God can forgive. And you can get to heaven. So, yeah, don't buy into this crap. You change your ways. You start doing good. You start trying to find redemption. You start trying to do your penance. Even if you don't succeed, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't succeed, because God forgives. God's forgiveness is real. So, yeah, don't let people like Tyler Marshall or Timothy Gordon or any of these people judge you and put you in a corner. And also the same thing on the left. Don't let people like Tyler Lorenz, don't let people like Hassan convince you that you're evil and you're worthless. It's not true. It's not true. You're not worthless. You're not evil. You're not so corrupted you can't be saved. None of that is true. You have value, no matter who you are.
Line, as well as people bashing me because I told Pearl in our debate that it's possible for women who leave porn to have healthy marriages. And Pearl thinks no man should ever marry a woman who's done this. People who think that say that these women are just permanently damaged goods who should be shunned. I saw similar react.
You know, when I went through my cancer scare and I dropped out of college, it was a bartendress, a female bartender at a strip club who kept me on my feet and kept me from destroying my life. So, yeah, don't buy into this, because to use a more secular way of speaking, angels are everywhere. And the good shepherd goes into the cave to save their sheep.
Actions covering fitness Nala's conversion to Christianity, which I've discussed in a previous episode. There's this idea that these women, especially those who made a lot of money on OnlyFans, haven't paid the price
into the lion's den
for their sins. And so they still need to suffer for what they've done. But if you think a person needs to pay the price,
there is no paying the price. There is no suffering. God forgives you. You're forgiven. Now, yeah, there's penance and temporal consequences and all that other stuff, but that has nothing to do with heaven. That has nothing to do with your value, nothing to do with your eternal life. Yes, you should make amends to people you've harmed and done wrong to. 100%. You really should. And I think it's a must. But at the same time, if you don't, but you're truly repentant and you desire to make right and you're doing your best to make right, even if you get nothing accomplished, God's already forgiven you. Heaven's already open to you. So,
before God can forgive his or her sins, then you do not know the gospel of Jesus Christ. And if you complain about people who got to sin and were still saved, even though you followed all the rules, you know what you sound like? You sound like the bad guys in Jesus's parables. That's what the older brother in the parable of the prodigal son complained about when his pride kept him from rejoicing over his brother's salvation. That's what the workers in the vineyard complained about when they objected to the workers who showed up for the last hour.
Yeah, it's just jealousy and envy. You're jealous of the sinner. You're basically jealous of the person that's going to hell or oblivion or however you understand hell. You're the hypocrite. You're the problem, not the sinner who wants to be better.
The same as them. Being a Christian means...
Because that jealousy, that envy, that hatred is the bigger sin. You're killing yourself to God, and you're killing and you're trying to murder that person to God. You're not just condemning the person that you hate. You're condemning yourself as well. So you're doing two sins while they're only doing their one.
Means you don't view salvation as a transaction or a deal. Salvation is a merciful gift of God we accept through God's grace. It's something we desire for every single person because God desires the salvation of every single person. But our heart cannot be open to God's mercy if we withhold mercy from other people.
And by the way, this is all dogma. This is all stuff Dan is going to reject. And this is why I have a problem with Dan. Because this is a superstructure theological idea that's placed over the religion that pulls out of the Bible. So it's extra biblical and it layers on and helps you understand the Bible. This is orthodoxy. This is the correct way to interpret what the Bible says. If you interpret something that says the opposite, you're no longer orthodox, you're heretical. This is why we have this, because there's so many evil ways to interpret what the Bible says. Yes, you heard me correctly.
Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy," which implies that those who are not merciful will not obtain mercy. Jesus makes this same point in the parable of the unforgiving servant when he sums up the lesson. Then his Lord summoned him and said to him, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you besought me. And should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you?" And in anger his Lord delivered him to the jailers till he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. As I noted in a previous episode, that doesn't mean we should not be on the lookout for false converts trying to get attention. It also doesn't mean that brand new converts should be a public face of the faith. But it does mean we can't be Christians if we close off our hearts to certain people, like if we treat former female porn producers differently from other sinners and consider them permanently damaged goods. And as I noted in my episode on Father Radcliffe, this also happens among liberals who treat sinners they detest more than others, like neo-Nazis, for example, as being irredeemable and permanently unsafe. Both the far left and the far right can treat people as being beyond the love of God. But in this episode,
and I think that's something that a lot of people get wrong about the slavery on the message on slavery. The message of redemption isn't just for the slave, it's also for the slaver. And I think that's missed a lot here. Yes, we want to free the slave, but we also want to free the slaver. We want to get him away from his sin and away from his oppression or her oppression of the other. So it isn't just a one-way street here in Christianity and Catholicism. It's you got to save both. You're not trying to just save, like it's a Batman thing. It's a Superman thing. It's a DC Comics thing. You're not just trying to save the victim of the villain. You're also trying to save the villain, and that's the more complicated part. How do you save the Joker? How do you save the Penguin? Knowing how evil they are, how corrupt they are, how irredeemable they are. And yet they are redeemable. They are redeemed. They're irredeemable, but they're already redeemed. How do we get them to accept that redemption? And there's some really good arcs, especially stuff written by Tinian IV, when it comes to Croc and Croc's redemption and Clayface redemption. There's some really good fictional writing on this in the DC Comics. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these statuses stand this test of time. I think they're back to being villains. But when you read these kind of narrative arcs, it is beautiful and amazing. You look at Arcane, there's going to be some kind of a major sacrifice with Jinx at some point where Jinx is going to become a hero after being a you-know-whatist. So these narrative arcs are extremely powerful, but they are not limited to fiction. This happens in real life. People change over time. This is why forgiveness and statutes of limitations are so important, and why the left's inability and unwillingness to forgive people is such a problem, because they themselves will mess up. And if there's no forgiveness, then once they mess up, there's nowhere for them to go. I want Hassan on my channel reading the Bible, reading the Quran, talking about how great God's forgiveness is. That's what I want for Hassan. I want him on my channel. I want him to give up his money, to give it to the poor. Keep $1 million, whatever. It's fine. You want $1 million? Keep $1 million. You never have to work again. But all the rest of the money, give it away, give it to the poor, feed people who are hungry, give it to orphanages, adopt a kid. That's what I want for Hassan. I want him to adopt a kid. I want him to start reading the Bible and the Quran daily. And I want him to start talking about how God saved him. That's what I want for Hassan.
So I'm focusing on when this happens among the right, especially those who want to be based. For example, Calvin Robinson is a conservative commenter who previously served as an Anglican priest, but is now a priest in the Old Catholic Church, a denomination.
By the way, whatever I was just saying right now pissed off the algorithm because we're down to 0 viewers, even though I know there's still people in my room. There are still people in my room, and yet I'm down to 0 viewers. Fuck.
That is not in communion with the Pope. Back in August, he posted a clip with the following caption: "Migrant dinghy crushed by Spanish police boat. It can be done. The Spaniards know how to reconquista." Now, I have defended a nation's ability to deport people and police its borders. You can hold that view while still having a heart that grieves when situations like this happen to migrants. Back in February, drug traffickers ran over a police speedboat in Spain and killed 2 officers. This kind of maneuver can kill people, and so to gloat over it being done to migrants instead of soberly discussing it expresses a heartlessness that is unbecoming of a Christian. But one of the most heartless things I've seen people, including Christians, express has been a hatred of interracial marriage. This post on X got over 3 million views and thousands of likes for showing an interracial family and simply saying miscegenation, race mixing, is a sin. Or this meme saying the brightest people support abortion for certain races, which is just eugenics. Many of the people saying miscegenation is sinful don't give a reason for why it's sinful, except their own reactive disgust towards interracial children. You can see this in people like John Mendeo II, aka Handsome Truth, who baits people with racist tirades. Here's an incident where he berates a...
Thank you, Thomas. I know there's actually a few more of you guys in here, but seriously, the algorithm just gave me just fucking punched me in the face and put me down to 0 viewers. It sucks. I'm pretty sure it was what Trent was saying, but it might have been me mentioning the self-deletion phrase, but not meaning it in self-deletion. I think that could have been it. Because as soon as I said it, I was like, crap.
A white mom with a mixed-race child who Mendeo calls a mud shark.
Oh my God! The mud shark!
Mud shark alert!
You made a mistake. You made a mistake. Mud shark! Mud shark!
Honest truth, I'm super Catholic. I try to forgive everyone for everything. But if someone was doing that to any one of my friends, I'd probably beat the shit out of them right there and then. I'd at least punch him right in the fucking face and kick him in the nuts. Maybe even punch him in the throat. Honest truth. I really would. I live in Texas. I have the freedom to stand my ground. I would stand my ground hard against him if I saw him doing that. And here in Texas, no one would stop to help him. They would just make sure that he disappears, and he would... the police would show up and be like, what? We didn't see anything. Yeah.
I truly believe someone with this attitude would walk right out of heaven and into the racially segregated parts of hell, because heaven, with its different races and people who are of mixed race worshiping God all together, that would be hellish to that person. That's why we should pray for God to rescue those whose hearts have been captured by hate and racial idolatry. Pope Pius XI said those who make an idol out of race are far from the true faith in God. Nazi Germany, for example, was not trying to promote Christianity, but a kind of paganism. And part of this heartless racism comes from a revival of neo-paganism. Consider this response to the X post saying race mixing is sinful.
I don't agree with this take here, by the way. We just were listening to, I think yesterday or the night before, the new paganism, which is not even neo-paganism, it's contemporary paganism, where they were talking about accepting people of different races. So he's using a bad example. I think the example he's using is a little bit bad faith, but that's okay, because the rest of his video, he's been really great.
It says, miscegenation was always traditionally considered one of the most grievous sins against your family, caste, and ancestors prior to Christianity, which introduced its plebeian values everywhere. Christianity is hardly the sole arbiter of what is or is not sinful. I only have 6 words to say to that. Cope harder, pagan. Jesus is Lord. What makes Christianity, and especially...
But you can't call all races pagans. There's a ton of racists who are in Christianity and Christian nationalism. So I mean, he's pushing a little bit too hard to get what he wants, but that's okay. That's okay. All the apologists seem to only see what they want to see.
Its expression in the Catholic Church so beautiful is that it's universal. The word Catholic even means universal, kata holos, according to the whole. Our faith is not confined to a culture, a nationality, or a race. It is one faith for the entire human race, and there is only one human race made up of many different and equally dignified ethnicities. That's why the church has never taught that interracial marriage is sinful. The Bible even records an episode where God punished a critic of an interracial marriage. In Numbers 12:1, it says, Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings, spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. Cush is another word for Ethiopia, and it refers to black Africans who lived south of Egypt. The Bible recognizes they had unique...
I agree with this interpretation, but if any of the heavy hitters are watching this either right now or later, let me know if Trent's interpretation is the correct interpretation of the original Hebrew.
Skin color, when it uses the same Hebrew word for Cushite in Jeremiah 13:23. It says, can the Ethiopian change his skin or the leopard his spots? But in Numbers 12, God becomes angry at Miriam for criticizing Moses. It says, the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, as white as snow. And in fact, God was saying, you prefer light skin to dark skin, Miriam? Here, you can have the lightest skin of all. Now that is a based move. The Catholic Church was actually one of the leading advocates to overturn bans on interracial marriage in the United States. In 1948, Catholic couple Andrea Perez and Sylvester Davis sued.
I don't exactly like the way that Trent worded that, but it's still cute. But even if I don't agree with the way you worded it. This is a beautiful and sad story, by the way.
To overturn a California law that said, quote, no license may be issued authorizing the marriage of a white person with a Negro, mulatto, Mongolian, or member of the Malay race. Perez was considered white under California law in spite of her Mexican heritage, and she and Davis sued California by claiming that the law inhibited their freedom of religion because they were free to marry in the Catholic Church that they both attended. The U.S. Supreme Court didn't strike down...
And in Mexico, there are the same kind of laws and the same kind of restrictions. My grandfather was mixed, half Indio, half... Spaniard, Jewish, Sephardic, and they did not want him to marry my grandmother because of that. She was French and Spaniard, and so it got ugly. But yeah, there's French blood, Spanish blood, and native blood on my Sephardic side, but that's just called being Mexican.
Down all interracial marriage bans until Loving versus Virginia in 1967. During this period, moral theologians like Father Joseph Doherty addressed this issue in works like his 1949 thesis, Moral Problems of Interracial Marriage. Doherty points out that even theologians who personally discouraged interracial marriage considered bans on the practice to be immoral violations of the natural right to marry. But Doherty goes further. Some Catholics claim that while interracial marriage isn't a sin, the church discourages it, and people have a general duty to marry within their own race in order to preserve it. But that's not true. The church doesn't teach that. You can value your own ethnicity as long as you don't idolize it. And you're free to marry someone of your own ethnicity. But the church does not teach that this is the ideal, and the church does not discourage interracial marriage. Some church leaders may have discouraged it in the past in historical contexts where interracial families experienced severe racist hardship because of unjust laws. But that doesn't mean...
I think that's a little bit of an out and a little bit of a cope on Trent's part. There were races in the Catholic Church. Don't think that there weren't. There were.
Racial unions themselves were undesirable. However, the church does have teachings on other kinds of mixed marriages. For example, the church discourages interfaith marriages when Catholics marry non-Catholics or even non-Christians. This is why permission or a dispensation is...
Yeah, we were having a lot of trouble, me and my wife. This is part of the reason why she wants to stay in China or go to China to live there, is that we're having a lot of trouble getting our marriage recognized by the Catholic Church. The original Monsignor who okayed our marriage, the original trial that we went to, came to nothing. So we're still not married in the Catholic Church. When we go to confession, the priest says, just be patient, they'll come. I don't know. So if our marriage does fall apart, which I hope it doesn't, I would be free to marry anyone else. So yeah, all because she's an atheist. So
needed for those marriages to take place. They are not ideal, but the marriages themselves are not sinful. However, no such permission is needed for interracial marriage. People who defend the view that it's discouraged by the church, they usually end up citing individual theologians or priests who personally discourage race mixing. But this wasn't official church teaching. Or they'll quote church fathers that say you should prioritize your own kin over strangers, which has nothing to do with marrying someone of a different race and is just talking about the principle of subsidiarity. That's why Doherty says, a careful search has failed to reveal any official documents of the church bearing specific...
You know, the trial for our marriage was interesting because it's, I guess it's technically an inquisition. And we have to go to the place of trial. There's a bunch of priests inside the room. I, as the Catholic, am not allowed to enter. So I had to stay out of the room, and she goes into this room, and she speaks very badly broken English, and she goes in there, and everyone the church that I go to, all the priests are Spanish first and English as a second or third language, and my wife is Mandarin first and English as a second language. So these are two people with English as a second language with different native tongues talking to each other in English, trying to understand each other. So I'm pretty sure that trial, I don't get to know what happened in there. I only know what my wife told me was said. So, like, you know, it's, I'm pretty sure it didn't go well.
On the morality of interracial marriages as such. So if you care more about being based than about having a merciful heart, then your heart is not prepared to receive God's love for all eternity in heaven. That's true for all of us, which is why we need God's transforming love. We long for the promise of God in Ezekiel 36:26. A new heart I will give you, and a new spirit I will put within you, and I will remove from your body the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. When I see someone getting angry at interracial families or porn stars converting, I see someone with a heart of stone, and I pray for God to change his or her heart. By the way, throughout this episode, I've mentioned the human...
And I would add to that LGBTQ activists who convert into Catholicism, and other activists of different groups that you disagree with who convert into Catholicism. Let their journey begin. Let their journey begin. Let them take that first step. You don't have to agree with them now, and they don't have to agree with you. But let that journey begin.
Human heart a lot, and there's a reason for that. Pope Francis just released a wonderful...
Let people who don't agree with us come to Mass, even if they're not Catholic. Yeah, so they can't take communion. Fine. Let them hear what we really think. Keep those church doors open.
Encyclical called Delexit Nos, Latin for He Loved Us, and it calls us to a deeper understanding of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Some Protestants and even Eastern Orthodox find this devotion strange, but the Pope assures us that, quote, devotion to the heart of Christ is not the veneration of a...
If I would let a murderer and an abuser into the church to listen to God's word of forgiveness, why would I not let someone who is same-sex attracted or someone who is who has committed abortion? They need forgiveness too. I'm someone who comes from a polyamorous, pansexual background. I used to date a witch. I've dated 2 witches, to be technical about it. So, yeah, no. I think Trent Horn needs to send this video to himself about 100 times until he gets his own message. Because he's so close and he's so correct. This video is so great.
A single organ apart from the person of Jesus. What we contemplate and adore is the whole Jesus Christ, the Son of God made man, represented by an image that accentuates his heart. That heart of flesh is seen as the privileged sign of the inmost being of the incarnate Son and his love, both divine and human. More than any other part of his body, the heart of Jesus is the natural sign and symbol of his boundless love. It also says...
I would really love Trent Horn to go back and read... Oh, hot dog it. It's not the Dedicate, it's the other one. Shepherd of Hermas. I would really want him to go back and read the Shepherd of Hermas and how the people who are building up the body of Christ and building up their own castles, and then they put one bad brick and everything falls down. But then they start building again with clean bricks. That's life, man. That's life.
says, when Saint Therese was 15, she could speak of Jesus as the one whose heart beats in unison with my own. 2 years later, speaking of the image of Christ's heart crowned with thorns, she wrote in a letter, you know that I myself do not see the Sacred Heart as everyone else. I think that the heart of my spouse is mine alone, just as mine is his alone. And I speak to him then in the solitude of this delightful heart to heart, while waiting to contemplate him one day, face to face. If you're jealous that you followed all the rules, but other people got to sin and had a conversion later in life, you need to spend some time with Jesus. The real jealousy comes from people like me, who lived a life apart from God for years or decades and missed out on so many graces. So trust me, Saint Therese is not jealous that Saint Augustine got to have a wild life. Instead, Saint Augustine has a holy jealousy, and admiration, if you will, that Saint Therese always knew the heart of God, even when she was a child. Many people become heartless on the internet because it's an inhuman, depersonalizing space. It reduces other people to images and avatars to argue with and dunk on. But that's not what...
But you do this with some of your opponents. Protestant, atheist, secular, whatever. You do this to them. I've heard you do it, and I've corrected you for doing it. In fact, you did it just one video ago, maybe 4 videos before that. So turn that mirror on yourself. Take that log out of your own eye before you try to take the splinter out of the others. Yeah, it is, Thomas. I wasn't being funny. My viewership was already going up, and then as soon as I said the other term for self-deletion, and I didn't even say it in a reference to self-deletion. I said it in a reference of working too hard on something, but I used that expression, and that was the end. It's really unfair. So I'm really grateful that Trump is going, if he stays true to his word, is going to make a law to prevent that from happening. Because I would love to see how popular I could be if you took all the railings off and you took the suppression and shadow banning off. I would love to see how popular I could be. I used to get 60,000 views of video before the first great shadow banning. I would love to. I would love to see how far this channel could go if that wasn't a factor. Look, the martial arts stuff never did great on my channel. I have another channel where I do martial arts stuff, and it's not doing great there either. I still am going to put it out there. I have a channel where I do comic book reviews. I don't say anything crazy on there. That channel is not related to any of my other channels. This is completely different and everything. And that channel's not doing great right now. So I'm not saying that, that the suppression and the shadow banning is the only problem, but I would love to see how great my channel could be if that didn't happen. Because I used to get 60,000 views a video. I would love to do that again. I would love to have, hell, even an audience of 1,000, 2,000 every video would more than satisfy what I want to do and who I want to reach. But hey, that's I'm sorry, I'm no longer the surf king of of Bali. It's like, who cares? I guess it's not a factor. It doesn't matter. I'm still gonna do what I do until I can't. As long as I can, I will.
What we were made for. I'll leave you with these wise words from Pope Francis. In this age of artificial intelligence, we cannot forget that poetry and love are necessary to save our humanity. No algorithm will ever be able to capture, for example, the nostalgia that all of us feel, whatever our age and wherever we live, when we recall how we first used a fork to seal the edges of the pies that we helped our mothers or grandmothers to make at home. It was a moment of culinary apprenticeship, somewhere between child play and adulthood, when we first felt responsible for working and helping one another. Along with the fork, I could also mention thousands of other little things that are a precious part of everyone's life. A smile we elicited by telling a joke. A picture we sketched in the light of a window. The first game of soccer we played with a rag ball. The worms we collected in a shoebox. A flower we pressed in the pages of a book. Our concern...
I like that message, but to be fair, I was never a make a pie with my mom kind of kid. Don't get me wrong. I did play house. I did play dolls. I did play, those stupid, more girly style games. But I did that with a neighbor. I didn't do that. Like, my mom wasn't teaching me how to cook. My mom was a very tough chick. She was a very tough broad. So.
Yes. And I think the whole when he talks about progressive Christians and he's like, people who are wrong Like, there's no argument made for
No,
that. It's
not
just
this
he knows
video.
his audience.
It's not that video. It's not that video. Where is it? Where's the one I left off on? I can't find it. Let's go to my... Hold on, guys. Give me a second. Let's see where it went. I kind of want to check out the Age of the Masses one, but I think we're going to save that for another night. Let's do a little bit more Diablocritics, and then we shall be done for today. There it is.
Mark is kind of mushing it all together. The presupposition of univocality means that Revelation 19 has to mean all of the exact same stuff that the author of the Gospel of Matthew and the author of the Gospel of John and Paul all meant as well. And so,
and I want to be very clear. It's not as if like whatever's going on with my channel and whatever suppression might or might not be happening is due to something I'm doing now. I could have just ripped someone the wrong way years ago, and they put whatever throttle they put on my channel and then forgot about it. So, it is what it is, man. I'm sad about it, but I'm not resentful, and I'm glad I'm speaking to the people who I am speaking to. That means you, Thomas and BS.
all fungible, and you can just mix it together and draw out whatever passage you want to try to present this image of Jesus. And but yeah, just profoundly uncritical, unself-critical. This representation of Jesus.
Profoundly, yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? I know that Dr. James Tabor has floated this idea, at least to me, that the Dead Sea Scrolls community might have been the Essenes, or might have been associated with the Essenes, or let's just say the Dead Sea Scrolls community, they had these ideas that very align with some of Jesus' teaching, like they called the Pharisees and Sadducees a brood of thieves and a den of vipers, and there's a bunch of different analogies that he draws out. Have you guys looked into that or thought about that much, or do you have disagreements or agreements about that? Or
most scholars think that there is some conceptual overlap in some of the language, some of the dualism, the light and dark, and
So I did something 5 years ago that pissed somebody off. I don't know. It's okay.
all this kind of stuff, but that was just kind of drawing from a shared cultural matrix.
Yeah,
it wasn't. There was no direction of influence. It was just different groups are kind of pulling from the same tree.
Okay. Some of these ideas that are being that Dr. Tabor is pointing to may have been pretty.
Vince McMahon is one of the worst people. One of the worst people in the entertainment business. He's like Harvey Weinstein level of bad, and yet his wife is going to be Secretary of Education. We're gonna and they have one of the worst track records for telling the truth. Like they lie about Hogan's history. They lie about how many people were at WrestleMania 3. So like we're gonna have history books that are gonna have their number for what happened at WrestleMania 3. That's gonna be the new history books.
Generally widespread among in terms of at least messianic expectation, or things like forms of ritual purity. Even though not everybody did it the same way, people had various ways of approaching ritual purity. So yeah, I think it's a more complicated situation than he presents, and I know he's. I mean, there are other things that Dr. Tabor does in his attempts to draw connections between the New Testament and the Dead Sea Scrolls that are pretty flimsy, without getting into it. But
I just thought it'd be interesting if Jesus was maybe more in line with the Essene community rather than the Zealots. If we were to try and put Jesus in one of the camps,
I would view Jesus as an Essene, in my own opinion. I don't have any proof of that. I have nothing. I don't even have they're speculating, and I don't even have what they're speculating off of. But just based on my readings and my understanding of the Bible, I would put him in the Essene camp, if anything. Whatever community John the Baptist came out of, I would put Jesus with that community, and maybe along the same lines. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same kind of vow that Solomon took. Not Solomon. Samson, I'm sorry. That's the same kind of vow that Samson took. So maybe. But yeah, I wouldn't put him as a zealot. I would say that all those movements would have saw themselves in Jesus, and they would have made claims that Jesus is the fulfillment of their, those who became Christians would say that he's the fulfillment of their prophecy, of their understanding. True. And then they would change their understanding to match his, and that they got their understanding wrong, and he had the correct interpretation of the prophecy that he was fulfilling. So that would be my guess. That's how I would put it.
Like, where would he?
I mean, it's a good question. I tend to think that, and it's hard to pin, just because the pictures that we have of Jesus are written from this post temple perspective, where a lot of Christian ideology is actually competing with surviving Judaism, which tends to be like a lot of like these groups.
Hello, Santiago.
The Essenes in particular is a group of Jews that seem to have, gone the way of the Jerusalem temple when the temple was destroyed. We don't seem to hear or see a lot of them after that. And you could say the same thing with the Sadducees, if the Sadducees are indeed, aligned with Roman power, after the destruction of the temple. It's so, I mean, that's part of the problem here. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else?
Well, I think it's a little silly because on the one hand, so I don't mean to call Tabor silly because he's a good guy, a good scholar, and so I don't mean it like that. But I mean that. So on the one hand, I spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about how little material we have of ancient Judaism and how every little bit helps us get a broader picture of what we can just put into this box or whatever of ancient Judaism. And so the Dead Sea Scrolls give us a lot of information about texts that were at least composed and in use in the period of ancient Judaism that we're thinking about. And that's where Christianity then also comes from. And so the New Testament and early Christian writings are part of also that kind of...
Can I also recommend That Darn Kitten? She did a recent diagram of the debate between Barry Wise and a few other prominent, I guess now ex-Democrats. And it was a really good breakdown of post-election debate on the autopsy or the analysis of what went wrong during this last election. So go watch That Darn Kitten. She has a great diagram that she did. Basically what she does, she takes debates or conversations and she diagrams each point in the conversation so you can see each point and see what actually is going on and whether this point's actually countering that other point. And she puts whether or not it's really answering the question that was asked, or whether it's evading, or whether it's a fallacy or not. It's just really interesting what she does. It is very meta level. It is very boring, quote unquote, but she has pretty good views, and I think it's really interesting and really useful to go watch. So go watch That Darn Kid, and she has a really good breakdown on that channel.
Ancient Judaism box of stuff that we're looking at. And so when we say, oh, look, there's some similarities between...
I bring her up because of the analysis that she does. I think that would be really great to do that kind of analysis with the Gospels and with other sources, extra biblical or biblical.
This piece of evidence of ancient Jewish material and this piece, and that's all well and good, but it might just be that ancient Judaism was like that. And so that it's hard to distinguish what are the similarities on the background of that they stand in opposition to what all other ancient Jews would have thought or done or said or believed, and what is specifically connecting these two groups as something special. And so I think we just have to be very careful, but when we do that we don't exegete two passages, one from the Dead Sea Scrolls, one from the New Testament, and say look how similar Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls are, when what we really might be saying is look what ancient Jews probably agreed.
I think Dan's about to jump out.
And we might not get pushback from Sadducees or Pharisees or from whatever.
Yeah. And just to clarify too, it was posed as a question to me. I think I've got a video on my channel, but it was posed as a question to me, not as this is the facts of the matter on the ground. Like James is like, this sounds a lot like Jesus, right? I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Should we keep playing?
Yeah. How much time do you have, Matt? I know you got to check out here a little early, don't you?
Yeah, I can probably do another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm out to go. So.
Well, let's watch another segment.
Okay.
Okay, how about another one? The Pharisees. So we went forward and backward. We'll go right, then left. So the Pharisees are the conservatives. Pharisee literally means separated or pure. So we'll talk about the Pharisees. So here's option number 3, the Pharisees. These are the most influential and largest of the parties in the first century. The Pharisees were not the most educated, but they were the most influential. They appealed to the masses and those who were more blue collar. They're mentioned around 100 times in the New Testament, so they show up a lot. Again, their name means separated. So here's how the Pharisees worked. They didn't want to leave like the Essenes. They wanted to stay, but they wanted to carve out a subculture. Hey, we're schooling our kids. We're not sending them to the government school. Hey, we're not watching that garbage on the TV at our house. We don't celebrate Pride Month here. Right? So they wanted to carve out a subculture to where they could still be involved in culture, be somewhat involved in politics, but maintain their separation and their purity. The result is that over time, they become more defined by who or what they're against rather than who or what they're for. So all of a sudden, they're not thinking about being separated to be connected to God, but being separated just so that they can judge everyone and be better than everyone and condemn everyone. In Matthew 23, Jesus Christ has got an entire chapter of woes, which are curses on the Pharisees because they don't have a heart for God or for others. Their goals were separation from unbelievers and division with believers. So their whole goal was separate from unbelievers and divide from believers. You don't do it right. You're the wrong kind of Christian. We don't do it your way. They're always fighting. They're always criticizing. They're always attacking. This is why we've got more than 300 kinds of Baptists. We're the left-handed Vietnamese Baptists, and we're against the right-handed Vietnamese Baptists because you're like this.
It's interesting to me. It kind of sounds like Drisscle sort of describing himself here.
Well, it sounds like he's trying to suggest that there are sympathies that his contemporary audience could find and identify with all of the different schools of thought here. Matt, you've read the whole argument. You can see the end from the beginning, but and I have not. But it sounds like he's kind of saying we can identify in certain ways with all of these folks, which is a more mature take than I would have expected amidst all of this profound ignorance.
Well, see, that's so what's interesting is when you realize that my comment off the cuff comment about being a Roman wasn't a joke because the Jews are the Christians. And this is so it's what he's appropriating is all of it, not just one sect, right?
Yeah.
And so what he's saying is that there's some good Christians that homestead, and there's some good Christians that stand up and fight, and there's some good Christians that are conservative and homeschool and do all this, and then there's some apostate Christians that are liberal.
Yeah.
And
the Sadducees suck all around,
but they're still Christians, and this is the point, right? Because you can take it too far as a zealot, you can take it too far as a retractor or whatever. You can take it too far in the conservatism, because he says that too. He's very clear that fundamentalism in its most conservative form is too far. He says it in the book, and I don't know if he does it in the sermon, but he gets there. And he makes it very clear that he doesn't want people to be as conservative as them. They want him to be as conservative as him. And that's important. And then you've got that other, the liberal, progressive, apostate churches. And so he's defining Christianity as Judaism. And then it's all about then how do you vote, right? And that's what his whole goal is here, is to say that actually pretty much everybody agrees on conservative values except for the stupid liberals. And so let's remember what the common denominator for all these good things is.
Right-wing authoritarianism.
Yeah, precisely. Right? So I think we need to. You touched on it at the start, Dan, but I think we need to say something too about the ways in which he's drawing this connection and divide between liberal, conservative, Pharisee, Sadducee. And as you pointed out, it just depends on, what you're choosing to prioritize.
But in the metaphor, the way that Matthew Munger just explained it, he's using Judaism as a analogy, metaphor, precursor to Christianity. So he's saying that the liberal Christians and the conservative Christians. So he's talking to the Christian community in different aspects of that.
In your own definition of what these things are. And it, this is, I think this was the weirdest thing to me at the outset, to hear Drisscle identify Pharisees as conservatives and Sadducees as liberals, because it's just not an accurate way of labeling these things in the first place. But if you're going to, you would probably tend to think of Sadducees as like the conservatives. These are the guys who were all about let's stay in the temple, let's keep the sacrificial system going as it has been all this time.
Yeah.
Let's focus on just very strictly, very rigidly the Torah of Moses, and let's not let any of that other crazy stuff get into our interpretation of the religion.
And we're going to be in bed with the power structures so that we're close to access to power, even if they are adulterers and rapists and all of these things. I mean, the Sadducees are much closer to contemporary Republicans than would be the Pharisees, who are the educated ones.
That's an unfair blow.
Who are the ones that are doing all the virtue signaling in the eyes of the Sadducees, who are the ones who are can't get organized to challenge the seats of power. So they would be there. There's an argument to make that they would align more with contemporary Democrats too. So yeah, but the whole notion that you can take this dichotomy in contemporary society and just superimpose it on the ancient world and that it will fit is just flawed to begin with. There's somebody mentioned Simone, I believe, mentioned one of Stephen Young's papers, so radically Jewish that he's an evangelical Christian. N.T. Wright's Judeophobic and Privileged Paul, which is a paper he published in 2022 in Interpretation, the Journal of Bible and Theology. Somebody was like, is that the actual title of a paper? Yes, it very much is. Stephen's got some great stuff.
Yeah, he does. So, and
as soon as they get back to Mark, I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and we'll finish this video probably tomorrow, if not the next day.
I think maybe one more thing to say here before moving on to the Sadducees, just so people have I think a clearer understanding of this. The Pharisees, a lot of their ideology, as far as we do understand it, kind of emerged out of this recognition that within a broader Jewish diaspora, their new strategies need to be developed in order to continue our religious observance when we're so far removed from the temple, which is where a stronger focus on communal gathering and the synagogues, the houses of prayer pop up. These are centers for reading and I guess instructing scriptures and a broader sense of what the scriptures are as well. It's a very populist kind of movement that was understandably highly popular among Jewish communities, Jewish community groups. And maybe I thought it's useful maybe also to say something else about the term Pharisee. Comes from the verb parash, which certainly in rabbinic tradition has the meaning of divide or separate. But maybe that's where the notion comes from. But importantly, this is not a term that the Pharisees ever seem to identify themselves with. It's probably a derogatory term used by outsiders to describe them. It also could have something to do with, and I think it.
Yeah, this seems to be speculation, but still good to know.
Maybe a more historically clear way to define it is in terms of interpretation, reading, added discernment. So anyhow, Matt, you've got to run. Did you?
You have anything that's happening on your channel or anything you're doing?
Not like right now. I'm just gonna go to bed. Oh no, sorry. I'm not. You meant like no? So I actually, I mean, I'm still doing stuff. I dropped a video today on Chronicles. Chronicles, because when that's the Bible was written backwards, and Chronicles rewriting the earlier histories of Israel is that's a gem. So that's there. Short introduction to that. Anybody wants to go look at it? And oh my God, I'm pushing through, doing my stuff. Headed to San Diego to do the whole academic scene, and looking forward to see you guys there. And yeah, thanks everybody. I will. I guess I'll see you on the other side of the pond, on y'all's side of the pond. Well,
yeah.
So I'll come see you sometime. All right, thanks everybody.
All right, see you back.
Awesome. Take care, Matt.
If I might,
yep.
Go ahead,
Let's just say
David.
quickly, we need a Diablocritics shirt that's like data over dogma. That's your thing, right, Dan? And then we need a Bible's written backwards. We just need to get all like the, you know, that's I don't know. Do something.
All right, guys. They're kind of dragging, and I still have to work out, so I'm going to call it a night. I want to thank Santiago for coming by, Thomas, B.S. Lewis, a few of the people who were in incognito mode who were in, and anyone who got booted out. I am so sorry. I said something stupid that the algorithm didn't like, and yeah. I really need this channel to grow. In February, it's going to be really important that this channel is at least moderately successful and has finances coming in off of it, for reasons I will announce later. I love you all. Thank you all. Let's go to the big screen. One more time for the cheap seats. Let's not forget, God loves you, so love everyone. Love your enemy. Love your neighbor. Love yourself. And God forgives you, so forgive everyone for everything 1,000,000 times over, 7 times 70. Forgive your enemy, forgive your neighbor, forgive your family, forgive yourself, and love God above all. Thank you, and good night. Follow him. Follow me, and change your ways. Follow him. All right, good night. Let's do the music. That is not the music. Back over here. Woo.
I like to get paid, that's why I work every day. I'll be making money till I'm in my grave. Don't care what they say, I'll buy time with my money. Laughing to the bank cause it's funny. The money keep coming, I manifest it. Sing these lyrics and you'll get it. I'm the bank, come invest it. I get tracked and I have it. Money finds me attractive. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit. I'll do the work, yeah, I'll do it till it hurts. I'll invest in my future, I'll invest in the purse. I wanna be so rich, life changes, and I don't ever think about how much I just pay it. Yeah, it's the dream, the American dream. Live on top, don't stop till you got everything. But there's balance, cause this life is a challenge. You gotta live in the now while building up the talent.